Amid the noise of a crowded livestock auction, one boy froze, not at the cattle or horses, but at the sight of a dying German shepherd in the corner. What he did next unraveled a hidden past and left everyone speechless. It was just another busy weekend livestock auction in rural Texas. 10-year-old Luke trailed behind his father, wide-eyed and curious. It was their tradition, watching the horses, talking prices, and soaking in the wild rhythm of the rancher's world. But this time something tugged at Luke's attention. Not the bulls or the broncos, but a dark shape lying in the shadows near a rusted gate. There, away from the noise and attention, lay a German shepherd. His ribs showed through his fur, and a heavy chain bound him to a post. He wasn't barking. He wasn't even moving. Luke's steps slowed, then stopped. Something about the dog made his chest tighten. The world around him, shouts, claps, auctioneer chants, faded into silence. He took a step forward, then another. No one seemed to notice the dog. No tags, no bed. Just a tin bowl with dry water stains and eyes that barely opened. Luke knelt down, unaware that this quiet moment would change everything. Luke gently reached out and placed his hand on the dog's head. The fur was rough, dry, and warm from the sun. The shepherd didn't move much, just a slow blink, a faint twitch of his ear. It was like he didn't expect kindness anymore. Luke's heart cracked open. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, stroking gently behind the dog's ear. A man nearby scoffed, "Ain't no use, kid. That mutt's done for." Another laughed. "That's the old army dog someone dumped here last week. Nobody wants him." But Luke didn't hear them. He was too focused on the soul behind those tired eyes, eyes that had once known purpose and now only knew pain. Luke's father found him minutes later, crouched beside the dog. "Come on, Luke. He's not ours," he said gently, but Luke shook his head. "He needs someone," he said, voice quiet but firm. "We can't leave him here." The father hesitated. Around them, the crowd kept moving, chasing livestock and profits. But a few men slowed, watching the boy's defiance. Luke wrapped his arms around the dog's neck. "I'll use my saving," he added. "Every dollar. Just don't let him die here." For a moment, the auction yard held its breath. Something real was happening, right there in the dirt. The auctioneer, a grizzled man in his 60s with a weathered voice, noticed the commotion near the fence. He stepped down from his podium, brushing dust from his jeans, and made his way over. "What's all this?" he asked, eyeing Luke and the limp German shepherd. Luke stood up, hands clenched at his sides. "Is he for sale?" he asked. The old man scratched his beard. "He's not part of the auction. Belonged to a veteran. Passed away a couple months ago. The dog got left behind. No family, no takers." He paused, eyeing the chain. "We were gonna take care of it soon." His voice lowered, uneasy now. Luke looked at the man squarely. "You mean put him down," he said. It wasn't a question. The auctioneer sighed. "He was a service dog. Saw combat. Got medals, they say. But he's no use to anyone now. Can't walk right, won't eat, just lies there." Luke's father stood silently, torn between reality and his son's pleading eyes. "Can I have him?" Luke asked again. "I'll pay." The man looked around. Rough, calloused faces had turned soft. Finally, he nodded. "You can have him, son, free, but don't expect him to live long." Luke knelt back down. "He's coming home," he whispered. "He won't be alone anymore." They carried the dog, now called Major, gently into the back of their old pickup truck. Luke laid a blanket beneath him and rode beside him the whole way home, his small hand resting on the dog's side. Major didn't move much, but his eyes followed the boy, flickering with a fragile kind of trust. Luke spoke to him in whispers, stories about school, his favorite horse, the time he fell off a swing and didn't cry. It didn't matter if Major understood the words. What mattered was that someone was finally speaking to him like he mattered. By the time they pulled into the driveway, the sun was beginning to set, casting long golden shadows across the yard. That night, while the rest of the house went quiet, Luke stayed awake beside Major. He placed an old pillow under the dog's head and brought out a bowl of warm broth. Major took a few sips, not much, but enough to stir hope. Luke curled beside him on the rug, blanket over his shoulders. Around midnight, Major lifted his head, pressed it against Luke's chest, and sighed. A deep, tired, peaceful sound. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. The boy had given the dog a second chance, and the dog knew it. The days that followed were slow, but full of hope. Major couldn't run, and sometimes he whimpered in his sleep, legs twitching like he was trapped in old memories. But Luke was always there. Soft voice, gentle touch, unwavering patience. He read books beside him, played quiet music, and even tried teaching him simple commands again. At first, Major just stared, but by the end of the week, he wagged his tail, once. It was a small movement, but to Luke, it was everything. They were healing together, one heartbeat at a time. The boy had found a mission, and the dog had found a reason to fight. Luke began to research everything he could about military dogs, how they served, how they were trained, and what happened to them after service. He learned about PTSD in animals, about how many were discarded after they were no longer useful. It lit a fire in his chest. Major still flinched at sudden noises, still stared at walls like he was watching something far away. But Luke didn't give up. He gave him space, love, and above all, presence. Wherever Luke went, Major followed. He didn't need orders anymore. He just needed someone who cared. And now he had that. Word about Luke and Major spread through their small town like wildfire. It started with a neighbor who saw the boy walking the once-forgotten service dog through the park. Then a local veteran stopped by and recognized Major instantly. "That dog saved 3 soldiers from an ambush," the man whispered, tears in his eyes. "He shouldn't have been left like that." From there, stories poured in. Veterans who remembered Major from overseas, families who knew the name but hadn't heard it in years. The town began to rally. Donations arrived at the local vet clinic. A fundraiser was organized to help cover Major's medical care. At the event, people gathered in silence as an old Marine stood and saluted Major. "Some heroes don't wear medals. Some wear scars and fur," he said, voice trembling. Luke, overwhelmed, held Major's leash tightly. It wasn't about attention. It was about giving honor where it had long been forgotten. Children petted Major gently. Veterans knelt beside him, whispering thank yous only he could hear. And through it all, Major stood tall for the first time in months, his head high, his eyes clear. The town hadn't just rescued a dog, they had rediscovered their own compassion, led by one boy's heart. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable true stories. Tap the notification bell to never miss a moment of love, courage, and second chances. Because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness save the greatest souls.